Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Armageddon. Today we're going to be featuring a Brawl deck with Syr Konrad the Grim as our commander, as part of our series of Brawl videos featuring commanders from Throne of Eldraine. Syr Konrad is one of a cycle of legendary uncommon knights and was powerful in the Eldraine limited format. Syr Konrad deals 1 damage to the opponent whenever a creature dies, or whenever a creature card either leaves our graveyard or is put into the graveyard from anywhere, so he can win the game just by being in play. Syr Konrad triggers if creature cards are milled from libraries, for instance, and he has an activated ability that enables his triggered ability by making each player mill a card. You also want ways to recur your creatures from the graveyard as well to trigger Syr Konrad, and with all our removal in black, we can always win the old-fashioned way by removing blockers and beating down with Syr Konrad. For the commander with a mana value of 5, we want lots of ways to accelerate our mana. In black, we have access to Dark Ritual, which is a powerful instant speed way of adding 3 mana. And we have all the usual ramp artifacts at 2 mana. Arcane Signet, Cold Steel Heart, Guardian Idol, Mind Stone, the Iron Crag, and the new Jet Medallion and Solar Transformer from Modern Horizons 3. At 3 mana, we have Altar of the Pantheon, which also increases our devotion to black, Bantu's Monument, which discounts our black creatures and drains the opponent whenever we cast a creature spell, Burnished Heart, which can be sacrificed to search up 2 swamps, and File of Galadriel, which can draw extra cards if we are empty-handed or gain additional life. We also have the Celestus, which can provide card selection and gain life, and Worn Power Stone, which taps for 2 mana. At 4 mana, we have Nyx's Lotus, which adds an amount of mana equal to our devotion to black, and Solemn Simulacrum, which puts a basic swamp onto the battlefield tapped and is great sacrifice fodder. Speaking of sacrifice fodder, that's what our next category consists of. Cauldron Familiar, nerfed in Historic and Brawl, is a combo with Witch's Oven, one of our sacrifice enablers, and if Syr Konrad is in play with those 2 other cards, can deal 3 damage in one go to the opponent. First, by triggering Syr Konrad when the Cauldron Familiar is sacrificed to the Witch's Oven, then when the Cauldron Familiar leaves the graveyard, and then the Cauldron Familiar draining the opponent when it enters. Our other sacrifice fodder consists of cheap creatures, several of which we can recur from our graveyard, such as Haunt of the Dead Marshes, Persistent Specimen, Clattering Augur, which also draws a card at the cost of 1 life, and Reassembling Skeleton. We're also playing Doomed Dissenter and Dusk Legion Zealot, which provide additional value in which we are happy to sacrifice. Our next category are our sacrifice enablers. There's the aforementioned Witch's Oven, as well as Priest of Forgotten Gods, which has an activated ability that can drain the opponent, add 2 black mana, draw a card, and force the opponent to sacrifice a creature if we sacrifice 2 of ours. Woe Strider can sacrifice other creatures at no cost at instant speed in order to scry, comes with a goat token, and can be escaped out of the graveyard. Tarian's Journal can sacrifice creatures for free, although only as a sorcery, and can be transformed into the Tomb of Aclazotz, which allows us to cast creature spells from our graveyard. Ayara, First of Locthwain, drains the opponent for 1 when black creatures enter, so she also acts as a win condition, and can draw a card by sacrificing another black creature, which we can do for free at instant speed once we untap with her. Finally, Yawgmoth Thran Physician can sacrifice other creatures for free at instant speed in order to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature and draw a card at the cost of 1 life. He also has an activated ability to proliferate if we discard a card, which is useful if we have a Planeswalker in play, and we have a couple in the deck. Our next category are our win conditions. Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Bastion of Remembrance, Falconwrath Noble, and Vindictive Vampire all drain the opponent whenever our creatures die. And Blood Artist and Falconwrath Noble are the best of them all because they also trigger when the opponent's creatures die. Sanguine Brushstroke conjures a Blood Artist onto the battlefield. Bloodletter of Aclazotz doubles how much life our opponent loses on our turn. Grey Merchant of Asphodel drains the opponent for an amount equal to our devotion to black, which can sometimes kill the opponent on the spot. And finally, Dreadhound effectively has the same ability to damage the opponent as Syr Konrad. Our next category are cards that provide graveyard recursion to work with Syr Konrad. Reanimate can return a creature to the battlefield at the cost of life. Phyrexian Reclamation and Vat of Rebirth are repeatable ways of recurring creatures. Liliana Death's Majesty can put a creature from our graveyard onto the battlefield with her -3 ability, create zombie tokens and mills us with her +1, and if we reach her ultimate, can wipe the board. Finally, Agadeem's Awakening can return multiple creatures from our graveyard to the battlefield, or can be played as a land. Our next category consists of our card draw engines. Black Market Connections can create a treasure token, draw a card, or create a shapeshifter token at the cost of life. Midnight Reaper, Morbid Opportunist, and Liliana Dreadhorde General all draw cards when our creatures die, although Morbid Opportunist also draws a card if the opponent's creatures die. Liliana Dreadhorde General also creates zombie tokens, which we're happy to use as sacrifice fodder, has an ability to act as removal, and her ultimate, if you reach it, is game winning. As a mono black deck, unsurprisingly, we're playing with our fair share of removal. At 1 mana, Bone Shards can destroy a creature or planeswalker if we sacrifice a creature or discard a card. We can often enable Revolt for Fatal Push so that it can kill a bigger creature. At 2 mana, we have Bitter Triumph and Power Stone Fracture, which can also destroy planeswalkers, Go for the Throat, Heartless Act, and Infernal Grasp for instant speed creature removal, and Feed the Swarm, which can also destroy enchantments. We're playing Murderous Rider, which can be cast as an adventure first to destroy a creature or planeswalker, and then played as a 2/3 with lifelink. The new Season of Loss from Bloomborough can be a board wipe, draw us cards for the number of our creatures that died this turn, or make the opponent lose life equal to the number of creature cards in our graveyard. Massacre Worm destroys the opponent's smaller creatures and drains them in the process, while the Mute Hook Massacre is a board wipe that also drains the opponent whenever our creatures die, so it also acts as a win condition. As a mono black deck, we're mostly playing basic swamps along with Fabled Passage and Prismatic Vista to search them up and thin out the deck. Barad-dûr can create Orc army tokens whenever creatures die, while Bojuka Bog exiles the opponent's graveyard. Cabal Stronghold adds extra mana the more swamps we have in play, while Castle Lockthwain can be activated to draw a card. And Gate of the Black Dragon, meanwhile, can seek a non-land card. Hive of the Eye Tyrant is a creature land that also exiles cards from the opponent's graveyard, while Phyrexian Tower can add 2 black mana if we sacrifice a creature. Takenuma Abandoned Mire can provide graveyard recursion, while Nykthos Shrine to Nyx ramps us if our devotion to black is high enough. Finally, we have Plaza of Heroes and Tyrite Sanctum to protect Syr Konrad or other key creatures. So that's our Syr Konrad deck. Now it's time to take it into the queue and play some games. On the draw, we've got some removal for Bristly Bill. Feed the Swarm can also destroy an enchantment, which there are plenty of worthwhile targets in green. And then we have some ramp with Jet Medallion, Altar of the Pantheon, and Solemn Simulacrum. Jet Medallion does not discount Altar of the Pantheon or Solemn Simulacrum, but it does discount most of our other spells, so I think this is fine. Only 2 lands, but we are in the draw, so we're more likely to hit our land drops. So I think we'll keep this. Opponent leads with Pelt Collector. Alright, and there's our 3rd land, Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Alright, there's another land. So if I play Jet Medallion, that's my only play. And then we can't feed the Swarm, Roaring Earth, or Pelt Collector. I like the idea of destroying Roaring Earth because that's an additional +1/+1 counter whenever they play a land. Although Heartless Act does not destroy creatures with +1/+1 counters on them. So maybe it's Heartless Act the Pelt Collector. Ooh, that's nice. Alright, that is 3 lands in a row. That is the downside of the... Oh, there's Infernal Grasp. I could play Syr Konrad. But they might have removal. Solemn doesn't block Bristly Bill. I think we can take a hit from Bristly Bill to ramp here. Plus maybe this means we'll hit something other than a land. Although we did draw Infernal Grasp last turn. Alright, I think we chump with Solemn Simulacrum here. More removal, that's useful. Can I play Alter, Syr Konrad, and Infernal Grasp? We've got 6. Three, 4, no. And then I don't have a creature to sacrifice, so I'd have to discard Tarian's Journal, but I think that's what we do here. Well, if I keep drawing removal, that's going to be pretty good. And then we can activate Syr Konrad. All right. Opponent can replay Bristly Bill and then destroy one of our ramp artifacts. We're going to need to draw removal for the Silverback Elder. Unfortunately, creature cards leaving the opponent's graveyard does not trigger Syr Konrad, or we would have pinged him for one there. There we go. And opponent keeps hitting their land drops. There's Dreadhound. I'll attack with Syr Konrad. Opponent does not block. Now, Clattering Augur is a little slow because you return it to your hand, not directly to the graveyard. But if it leaves the graveyard, Heaped Harvest, sure thing. We trigger Syr Konrad. Now, opponent can sacrifice Heaped Harvest to gain 3 life and draw another card. Okay, so we don't have to block the Silverback Elder, but we do go down to 2. Okay, let's see here. I think as long as the opponent doesn't have interaction for 1 mana, I think we have lethal here. We activate Hive of the Eye Tyrant and attack with everyone. Even if opponent blocks Dreadhound with Bristly Bill, they're still taking 8, 5 from Syr Konrad, and 3 from Hive of the Eye Tyrant. So I think we have this. And opponent concedes. Alright. So despite opponent getting some pretty big creatures out with their Roaring Earth and hitting their land drops all the time, and Bristly Bill being a commander that's easy to recast, we still managed to get it done thanks to the damage we did from Syr Konrad and Dreadhound, damaging the opponent for 1 every time a creature card entered the graveyard. So that's what our deck is trying to do. We didn't have so much of the sacrifice angle this time, but so we'll have to see if we can make that work in a future game. Anyway, on we go. Okay, on the draw, facing Timoret, chosen from death. Now, Timoret, chosen from death, their activated ability is actually good if Syr Konrad's in play, because if they exile creature cards from our graveyard, Syr Konrad damages them, although they do gain life with exiling creature cards with Timoret, so it kind of is nullified, but at least it means they don't gain additional life for exiling creature cards from our graveyard. Anyway, I've got some early removal. We could play Midnight Reaper as early as turn 1 with Dark Ritual, although I think we save Dark Ritual for when we can cast Liliana, so that'll be turn 4, unless I get a ramp artifact between now and then. And then I've got early interaction for Timoret, and then I'm sure they'll have removal, but at least Midnight Reaper draws a card when it dies, so that's fine. I think we'll try this. And we've got 3 lands. 3 lands is kind of like what you want. It's sort of the perfect amount of lands to start with in your opening hand in Brawl. I can't tell you how many times there's Timoret. So we can play Arcane Signet and Bone Shards on the same turn. What do we discard? Maybe it's Phial of Galadriel? I think it's Phial of Galadriel. I want Midnight Reaper for card draw. Definitely want Liliana, which we can cast as early as next turn with Dark Ritual. Definitely not discarding a land, because if we don't draw a land, if we discarded a land and then didn't draw a land, that would be bad. And so this way we're guaranteed to be able to get Liliana down. Looks like opponent is might be disconnected. They might also be debating whether or not to return Timoret to the command zone from the graveyard. Okay. Anyway, so We'll see what opponent does here, but next turn we play a land, cast Dark Ritual, cast Liliana, and start making zombies. And the sooner you get a Planeswalker down like Liliana, the easier it is to reach the ultimate if she goes unopposed and basically win the game. Okay, so opponent time. Oh. Okay, I guess what happened is they timed out and they'd meant to put Timoret back in the command zone. And because they didn't, because they timed out, they didn't want to keep playing. Which I can understand. That can be pretty bad, especially if they don't have graveyard recursion or a way of exiling Timoret from the graveyard to get him back into the command zone. So, there we go. Anyway, that one was easy. On we go. On the play, so Goro, and Satoru reward you for dealing combat damage to the opponent with a creature that entered this turn. So creatures with haste, and they can give all their creatures they control haste until end of turn with Goro, and Satoru, or cards with ninjutsu. This hand, I like the 3 lands, but no ramp. Master Worm, I'm not sure how good it'll be. Although ninjas tend to be pretty small, so it might not be that bad. But then it's 3 1-drops, which probably won't do a lot to block opponent's aggression. And I don't have any interaction at instant speed. So I think we look for something else here. Okay. 4 lands is a lot, but we've got ramp. Priest Forgotten Gods, not doing much right now, but it can at least be a speed bump. And then we do have Murderous Rider as instant speed interaction, so I think we can keep this. Opponent cycles Footfall Crater, we draw some more removal. Feed the Swarm can destroy Footfall Crater. That's a way of giving haste. Alright, well it is more efficient to play Priest of Forgotten Gods because we don't have any 1-drop to play with Arcane Signet. I think I like ramping here, so we'll play Arcane Signet. And that way we can play Priest and Feed the Swarm. Next turn. Alright, Feldon hits us for 2. Alright, we draw a land. The nice thing about black removal is it doesn't deal damage, so they're not going to exile cards off Feldon. I think we do destroy Feldon here, because Priest can't trade for Feldon. So it's like I took another hit from Feldon, because Feed the Swarm, I took 2 damage off Feed the Swarm for destroying a creature with a mana value of 2. Uh-oh. Now I'm wishing I still had Feed the Swarm. Alright, so I can play Syr Konrad, and I drew another land. I'd also seek a card with Gate the Black Dragon. I think we'll get Syr Konrad down. Alright, opponent draws a card and makes a treasure off Black Market Connections. Plays Goro and Satoru. Boots of Speed. Alright, Bantu's Monument. Probably Ramp, not really that useful. Okay. So if they attack with Goro, and Satoru next turn, Goro, and Satoru at least don't create a Dragon Spirit Creature token if it damages me. And I've got Murderous Rider up. So I think we attack with Syr Konrad. We need to get opponent's life total down as fast as possible to make Black Market Connections a problem rather than a benefit for them. Alright, so we can play Bantu's Monument and still hold up Murderous Rider. Opponent draws a card, an extra card, and creates another treasure with Black Market Connections. They're down to 13. Alright, so they won't be able to give haste to Maniform Hellkite. But if Squee hits us, then they create a 5/5. And then this way, if we kill Squee before they go to attackers, they don't create the extra goblin. We'll take free from Garu. Alright, so Maniform Hellkite can trade for Syr Konrad. I don't have an attack. I could play Murderous Rider so that I could potentially activate Priest of Forgotten Gods. Witch's Oven isn't really doing much for me right now, so maybe I just hold up Plaza of Heroes, Gate of the Black Dragon, and Syr Konrad's activated ability. And then I think I do play Murderous Rider to get an extra blocker. And then that does allow me to activate Priest of Forgotten Gods if I want to. Alright, opponent creates another treasure and draws another card, so they're down to 8. Ginger Brute. Okay, so Ginger Brute, they can activate it to give it so that it can't be blocked except by creatures with haste. Not much we can do about that. Nope. But apparently, opponent still thinks they're too far behind and concedes, even though they were going to get a free 5/5 out of the deal. Alright, well, can't complain about that. We'll take it. On we go. Alright, the first sliver could be Sliver Tribal, could be 5-color good stuff. What do I think of this hand? Burnished Heart works well with Vat of Rebirth and Falconwrath Noble. I've got 3 lands, we're on the play. I don't know if I should try for interaction. Maybe this hand is a little too slow. I think we will see if we can't do better. Alright. No ramp and 2 6-drop creatures, but we do have Infernal Grasp and 4 lands. I don't want to go down to 6, so I think we'll keep this. So maybe the other hand was better, but I think this is fine. And right on time, get Clattering Augur into ramp, which is great because we'll be able to play Mind Stone and still be able to hold up Infernal Grasp. Opponent ramps the Solar Transformer. We hit a land. So I'm not sure what Furnace Skullbomb is doing for them. I don't know, maybe they're playing with some oil synergies? There are no slivers that care about oil. Play some more ramp. Draws a card with Furnace Skullbomb. So maybe they're just playing it as a cantrip. I could Infernal Grasp the Gardener, but I think they can play the first sliver if they hit an untapped land on their turn anyway. Draw another land. At least it's a Prismatic Vista, so we'll be able to thin out the deck a little, so hopefully we won't draw a land next turn. And then I could keep up Infernal Grasp at instant speed, but I think Konrad is the play here. That's the most mana efficient. And then next turn... Oh, they play Sliver Hive Lord. So that's going to be a problem. So that gives their slivers indestructible, and I think all of my removal is destroy. Clattering Augur, unfortunately, does not block, so it's not a good chump blocker. Syr Konrad can't attack into Sliver Hive Lord. Massacre Worm could kill Oasis Gardener and any cheap slivers. I think a lot of slivers die to Massacre Worm, and they die to it despite the effect of Sliver Hive Lord because it's -2/-2. But Master Worm only has 5 toughness, so it also doesn't block Sliver Hive Lord. So I think we play Dreadhound here. Alright, we mill 2 creatures. No attacks. Dreadhound can block Sliver Hive Lord. And there's the first Sliver. And they cascade into Blur Sliver. Now that's a bit of a problem because it gives all their Slivers haste. So they can attack with the first Sliver right away. Hopefully they don't have any interaction for 1 mana. Alright, so they don't have any blockers up. Masker Worm kills Blur Sliver and Oasis Gardener. I could do Massacre Worm or Ayara and Haunt the Dead Marshes, but I think it's better to... Getting rid of the Sliver that gives haste is probably also a good idea, so that they're not able to attack with their other Slivers right away. Alright, so opponent's already down to 14. They can attack with back with 14 with Hive Lord and first Sliver. I think we attack with everyone, because this gets them down to 2. So as long as they don't kill me this turn, so that was definitely the right move in destroying the Blur Sliver with Master Worm. So now I play Ayara and 1 other creature and opponent is dead. They're tapped out. And Syr Konrad does the honors because a creature of mine left the graveyard. Alright. So there we are. We managed to fight our way through indestructible Slivers. On we go. Another Bristly Bill deck. We're on the play. I've got 3 lands, so I can play Familiar and Brushstroke, but Familiar can't block. That's the nerf it gets in Historic and Brawl, is it can't block. In other formats it can, which makes it very useful as a chump blocker, especially if you have Witch's Oven. And then the Blood Artist is a 0/1. Yawgmoth has protection from humans, but I'm not sure how many humans a green deck is going to be playing. I think we look for a hand with more interaction or ramp. So let's take our free mulligan. Alright, well there's the ramp. And then we've got Clattering Augur, which draws a card. So turn 2 we can play Clattering Augur, turn 3 we can play the Ironcrag, and Reassembling Skeleton. And then we've got Vindictive Vampire and Syr Konrad. So we'd like to draw a Sacrifice Enabler to go with our Clattering Augur and Reassembling Skeleton. But I think we can keep this. And then hopefully Clattering Augur will draw us into either something like a Woe Strider or removal. And speak of the devil. See, it's that easy. You just say what card you want to draw and you draw it. No attacks. Right now, opponent, unless they play a forest, they are taking damage off their Hash of Oasis. They Rant, which glimpses the core, although it looks like they've missed... Oh no. Never mind. They did not miss a land drop. They did that in order to get Fabled Passage untapped. So I might jump block with Reassembling Skeletons here. I could take 5, but Reassembling Skeletons is pretty inexpensive to get back. Alright. Land, definitely didn't really need land. So I can play Woe Strider and then return Reassembling Skeleton from the graveyard. Or I could play Syr Konrad. They'll probably be able to make another land drop and make it so Bristly Bill can attack past Syr Konrad. So probably getting the Woe Strider with the Goat token, and I can chump Bristly Bill with the Goat token. Might be better. And then opponent not likely to block with Llanowar Elves. And they don't. Clattering Augur can't block, so it might as well attack while I have the opportunity. The opponent has 5 mana. Nykthos still does not add additional green mana, so they're not super ahead. Paw Patch Recruit with Offspring. So if we target one of their creatures with removal, they get additional +1/+1 counters. They don't attack with Bristly Bill. Alright, let's sacrifice Clattering Augur since it's not attacking next turn anyway. And scry. Burnished Heart. Is Burnished Heart good here? I can't play it alongside Vindictive Vampire or Syr Konrad, so maybe we send it to the bottom, and then I think let's sacrifice Reassembling Skeleton. We'll definitely send a Swamp to the bottom. and then we'll take our draw step. Alright, bone shards. Okay, so if I target Bristly Bill with Bone Shards, they get 2+1/+1 counters. So they could put them both on this Paw Patch recruit and make it a 4/3, but Woe Strider still blocks it. I could sacrifice the goat, or discard Vindictive Vampire, which also triggers Syr Konrad. I could discard Takenuma, but on the other hand, Takenuma, I could always get back Vindictive Vampire with Takenuma. So I think I will discard the Vindictive Vampire here. Alright, so they put one counter on Paw Patch Recruit, the non-token Paw Patch Recruit, and one on Llanowar Elves. I could attack with Woe Strider, but it's kind of more valuable to me as a sacrifice enabler, so trading it for like their one drop doesn't seem particularly worthwhile. Opponent replays Bristly Bill, plays another land. Well, Massacre Worm would be really good right about now. So I think sacrifice the goat, Plaza of Heroes, and then I could get back Reassembling Skeletons and sacrifice that, although the problem there is that I wouldn't then be able to play Massacre Worm if I draw it. So I think we take our draw step first. And it's just another land. So I can channel Takenuma for 3. So we'd still have 3 mana. You could also return Clattering Augur to hand and play Clattering Augur. And returning that to hand triggers Syr Konrad. And I think drawing a card is probably pretty useful. Alright, Bantu's Monument. Syr Konrad could attack because he would trade for 2 of opponent's creatures. Although trading for like a token Paw Patch Recruit and Llanowar Elves seems kind of bad, trading off 5 mana for essentially 3 mana worth of creatures doesn't seem like a good deal. So I think we hold Syr Konrad back as a blocker. And then I think we'll wait until our upkeep to sacrifice Clattering Augur. Although I guess, no, it doesn't matter whether it's during the opponent's end step. Alright, so opponent activates Bristly Bill. So now, alas, Massacre Worm not looking so good. Although Woe Strider can still block the non-token Paw Patch Recruit, and their other creatures can't attack into Syr Konrad. The Paw Patch Recruit token has the same mana value as the non-token creature it's the offspring of, so that contributes towards Nykthos. Meat Hook Massacre would be a good draw. Vat of Rebirth. I think that's too slow. Let's take our draw step. Cold Steel Heart. Alright. Can I play Bantu's Monument? I don't think I can play Bantu's Monument, return Clattering Augur to hand, and still cast it, even with the discount. Actually... maybe I can? I can. Alright, there's Infernal Grasp. Railway Brawler. So at least they're not activating Bristly Bill. So I think we have to kill Railway Brawler with Infernal Grasp. Opponent attacks. We've got 1 mana up. I think we kill the Paw Patch Recruits so they don't get any +1/+1 counters when I target Railway Brawler with Infernal Grasp. And then I am going to block with Woe Strider here, because I can always escape it. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Looks like opponent doesn't have a combat trick. I'm very grateful for that. Prismatic Vista. Don't need more land. draw another land anyway. Now, currently I would have to exile both Reassembling Skeleton and Clattering Augur to get Woe Strider back. So I don't think I want to do that. And then I can get Clattering Augur back and get it from the graveyard, but that is enough for opponent. Alright. They're obviously counting on Railway Brawler to make their future creatures bigger. So even though it was rather slow, having Clattering Augur to be able to recur from the graveyard and then play it again to keep drawing cards was really helpful for us. And then you saw the benefit of having the Sacrifice Shell around Syr Konrad with Woe Strider because we were able to consistently trigger Syr Konrad. So that worked out pretty well. Alright, so that's our Syr Konrad deck. As you can see, you can win from a variety of angles. We are built around primarily a Sacrifice Shell with Sacrifice Sacrifice Fodder, and then creatures like Syr Konrad, Blood Artist, and all the rest to drain the opponent whenever our creatures die to one of our sacrifice effects, but you can still get it done in other ways just by being down with Syr Konrad and all the rest. So that's our Syr Konrad deck. Hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to see another Throne of Eldraine commander for the next Brawl video, or a commander from another set altogether, let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.